Hello, everyone, and welcome to Conjure Crew. Today we have with us the lovely Aura LaForest. I get confused on which hand to use. She is joining us, and she's going to be telling us all about her journey and how she got to where she is and all kinds of things like that. So you want to just jump right in, or?
Sure. Do you have any lead questions? What do you want to know first is more the question.
How did you get started?
How did I get started in magical work?
Yes, and in hoodoo, and just
okay.
Tell us
I had given up magical work since my adolescence. I hadn't touched it again, and it's something that had made me very uncomfortable. The fact that what I'd done had actually worked made me very uncomfortable.
Right. It's scary sometimes.
Yeah, and everything kind of went under wraps for a while, about 10 years, and I slowly wanted to reintroduce a sense of wonder in my life, because I've always worked very Cartesian scientific jobs, like most people. I have a day job, and it very, very routine, like I'm a maintenance planner in the mines. So you don't get more Cartesian and more square than this. It is an extremely rigid type of work. Very interesting, but there's no wonder in that. There was something more profound that I was looking for, and I needed spirit back in my life again. And I didn't really know where or how that was going to happen. So I'd always read cards. I started reading cards again. I started looking and doing meditations with the cards again. And I'd always been into herbalism and had been practicing herbalism very actively for 3 or 4 years, done a lot of training as a home herbalist, a folk herbalist, growing my own herbs at home. And as I was looking into the magical applications as opposed to only the mundane ones, and the way that it can awaken spirit, I fell upon the Lucky Mojo site, because it comes across in pretty much every search.
Right.
And found the Association of Independent Readers and Root Workers, and kind of touched at it a little bit. But I had a background more in ceremonial magic, so very practical application magic was something very different and a little bit foreign for me, and I really wasn't sure how much I wanted to go there or touch that. But at the same time, I was also looking into Catholic folk magic, because I was Catholic by birth and am Catholic by birth, and fell upon the grimoires of Albertus Magnus, who, funnily enough, considered natural magic to be nothing magical. He said it's just completely normal that nature can operate this way. And it's interesting that Thomas Aquinas, who was one of his students, was eventually responsible for making that magic unavailable to the masses and considering it bad or wrong to use natural magic. Unless, of course, you were a part of the church itself. And in Quebec, where I live, I don't know if it is true or not, but it is said that most of the priests had their Bible, and they also had a copy of the Little Albert, because if it was a bad year, you had to make sure that the crops were going to do what they needed to do, because otherwise everybody died and there was no congregation. But like I said, can I prove or disprove this? No, it's hearsay. It's what I hear from a lot of the old timers who've been out in this area since the 20s and who had family from the 1800s back in Quebec. So will it ever be proven or disproven? I don't know, but certain the Catholic Church is keeping mum on it.
Right.
But when I discovered that, to come back to the root work, I said, well, if it's been operating for this many years, it's not the same practice at all. But it's compatible with nonetheless working within a religious context.
It is. I find that it's more of a practice than a religion, but
Yeah, it is.
separates them.
Yeah, it's practical. It's like every day getting things done.
Mhm.
And I said, okay, well, I'll read more about it. So I started getting a reading from somebody, getting some root work prescribed, trying what was prescribed, seeing how it worked, doing some of the free spells that I found online through the site. Some of them did research at other sites, saw what was available and around. Eventually did the Hoodoo root work correspondence course.
Mhm.
Learned a lot, started reading professionally, did much root work for clients. Really enjoyed it. I was very privileged. I had wonderful, wonderful, wonderful clients. I've met incredible people. The conferences that I went to, the festivals that I went to, just amazing, heartwarming community.
Yeah, I wanted to take her course, but right when I was getting ready to start taking it, she stopped taking students.
Mm-hmm. I really am very happy that I did the course. I learned a whole lot that way. I don't think it's the only way to learn. I think, I also did many courses with Mama Star, who is a completely different way of working, completely different way of approaching things. Wonderful. Did a lot of work. Well, I got read for a lot by Eddie back when he was still alive and adored him. Adore Professor Porterfield, who's going to be on next week. He's somebody I respect very, very much. And ultimately, what ended up happening is that, first of all, I do have a day job and it takes a lot of hours. So there was only so many hours in a day. I have a young son and I wanted to devote more time to my family.
Yes.
So
It's very rewarding, but it's very draining.
it's very time consuming and you want to be there. I figured, I want to be there 100% for my clients. And when I could no longer really be there and completely be there for their work and to nurture them on their journeys and help them move forward, it was not time to be practicing any longer.
Right. Now, you have written a couple books that I know of, at least two.
Yeah, there are only two.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I have the one, the Hoodoo Bath book. I have that one was gifted to me by my friend Mark Colville.
Mm-hmm.
He took the course as well, but I'm interested in the other book too, to be honest.
The other book is
Work.
Yeah, it's a bit of a different approach. It's more Hoodoo is self-help. So how can you use it through the different phases and obstacles of your life? One of the divergences that I think I've had probably with a lot of the community I initially worked with is that I really do have more of a, I guess, psychology approach to it. I consider magic not to be the sole way of dealing with an issue. And I'm very strong also in the clients who've worked with me probably can testimony to that. Also give a lot of advice on when to consult, the type of consultation that might be helpful, dietary suggestions, herbal suggestions, so that you're approaching your situation, you're approaching what's going on in your life from every different angle possible. Because the help that you need to move forward or through something can come from many different directions, can come from many different places. And the more opportunities that you give yourself to heal, to grow, to expand, and it doesn't need to be a problem either, it can just be for personal growth. The more different avenues you can give yourself to do that, the more you're supporting your magical intention from every different direction. And then that multiplies. So you're creating, it's like a ripple in a pond. You know, yes, you can set your intention magically, but the more ripples that you can generate, the more times that you can hit that same spot with a rock, the more that's going to grow, the stronger it's going to be. And eventually you can create a tidal wave that way. And that's what changes lives. That's what changes paths. And it's beautiful to watch people unfold that way. You know, it's a privilege when you work for somebody, when you see how they expand and grow, how they change.
Yes. So that leads me to ask, were you, I'm sure you were, active in the community, helping women and stuff, helping them grow? And
I'd say 98% of my clientele were women. And
uh-huh.
yes, you know, one of my favorite types of work is growth and self-help work. I did a lot of love work. It is by far, I mean, let's be honest, it is the most popular type of work out there. And, you know, at least 85% of clients come to you for love work. And it's a good place to start. But
Hmm.
love work, well, most of the time, good love work starts with good self work.
Yes, you have to love yourself first.
And if you don't have that down, the love work will never be more than a band-aid.
Right.
Can you get it to work? Of course. Sure you can get it to work. Is it going to last, or is it going to be what the person ultimately wants or needs? Probably not over the long haul.
Right. I
So,
find myself when I do readings is I can do the reading, that's not a problem, but it's more often than not a therapy session.
it can be. It can be. Um, And often what a reading uncovers is the underlying issues that are causing the problem. So if you don't deal with those issues, you know, uniting work only works if the break has been glued. You know, if you don't glue the teapot back together, it ain't going to happen. It's not going to hold water. It's not going to hold that richness. And if you don't have that richness with yourself, if you don't have that comfort in silence,
Hmm.
how can you have comfort with someone else?
Exactly. And if you don't love yourself, how can you expect anyone else to love you
Yeah.
equal?
Valentines is about self-love. You know,
Yeah.
I find it a very, and the other thing is being a maintenance planner, love, particularly if you're working on a marriage, is about preventative maintenance. Too
Yes.
many people wait for something to be broken. That's not the time to fix it. You
No.
know, it'll be stronger on the break, but it'll also always be a soft spot and it'll always be a tender spot. Whereas preventative maintenance, you know, you do a little bit of work all the time. Do I actively do spell work, quote unquote, anymore? No, not really. However, am I constantly praying when I'm cooking? Damn straight.
Absolutely.
You know, do I have a spice drawer and rack full of herbs that I grew in the garden and nurtured up to maturity? Yeah. Is that what I use to cook for the family? Damn straight. And, you know, I cook our bread every week.
Hmm.
Breaking bread with people is, you know, a ritual that's ages old. If
Oh,
you are making bread for those closest to you on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, over time, over years, this cements relationships. That is work. However, I'd be hard pressed to find a spell of that type. But magic is, and this is where root work really brought something very profound to my life, is that I found that it was a way of life. It's a way of seeing things. It's a way of doing things. You know, I wouldn't dream of waking up in the morning without praying. I wouldn't dream of going to bed at night without thanks, without a prayer.
exactly.
It's become a way of living that is woven through everything that we do.
Exactly.
My son lost his first teeth. He did not want to give them to the tooth fairy. He is too attached to everything to give away a part of his body, which says a lot for him being safe from other women tying him later in life. But I said, okay, well, look, I have a jar of kosher salt, sweetie. Why don't we put some bay leaves in that? They help you with victory. They help you see things wisely. They're going to be protective. And you can put your teeth in that. That'll be your jar of teeth. He's like, oh, yeah. Okay, great. So here, put the jar over there. And every time you lose one, it's up to you. You can either take them out again and give them to the tooth fairy if you want the cash, or you can put them in the jar. It's up to you. So we're up to 4 in the jar.
Cool.
Yeah. And he doesn't even kind of fathom what he's doing. He doesn't understand that, yeah, that's a jar spell technically that we've got going. But he does know that that's something very special, and that that's something that's very intimately linked to him and who he is.
Right.
So there's things like that grow in our house. And that's what practice has become for me now in this day and age, you know. And
Awesome. I tried it. My kids were involved for a while, and then they kind of turned into teenagers, and
yeah.
they kind of turned into teenagers.
Need we say more?
Right? Now everything I say is I'm annoying. I'm annoying. Not them. Me. They don't listen. So it's whatever. You know,
Yeah.
they'll figure it out one day. At least they know what I do, and they, learn by example.
Once the seed has been planted, it can go dormant for years and years and years. But it's amazing. Dandelions will grow through concrete.
Yes.
So there comes a time.
And my son's not, well, he just turned 18. But my daughter's hangs out with Mama Star sometimes too.
Okay.
We go see her, and so she's learning things whether she wants to or not.
Yeah.
It's there.
Oh, it percolates in.
Oh yeah.
It's
very crafty. She likes to make stuff.
mm-hmm.
When you make stuff too, I did read that too. You knit.
Yes, I actually knit. I quilt. I basically, if you can think of a feminine art, I probably do it. And
I love knitting.
I usually knit hairs into various different items. The other thing that I'm very fond of is I have many different types of beads. A lot of them evil eye beads, various different beads from traditions across the world. So I'll embellish it with some type of amuletic element, depending on who I'm giving it to, depending on the paradigm that they see the world through and that means something to them, and adapt it that way. And part of what makes any handmade item so valuable, be it a crafted item, be it a conjure item, be it a fixed candle, is the time.
Right.
It's the attention and it's the thought that goes into that.
It does. And if you think about it too, the knots, how many stitches? Okay, if you've got, let's say you're going to make a hat, you start off with 80 stitches, and then you have how many rows? This one's probably 75. So 75 times 80 knots. That's a lot of prayers, a lot of knots.
Yeah, it's a lot of rows.
Yes,
it's a lot of meditation.
it is, and it's so relaxing to me. I'm sitting here. These look like crocheted condoms, but they're really going to be cat doobies.
Those are great.
But if I watch Netflix, I can watch Outlander, and he's so awesome.
Yeah, and you zone. Like
Yes.
you just go into the zone, and you're there with it, and it's very repetitive, and it's like a meditation. You go over it again and again and again. It's wonderful.
Yeah, it's very relaxing. I find myself even taking a bag with me in the truck because
Hmm.
if I have to sit still and wait on the kids to come out of the store or
Exactly.
get out of school, I'm sitting there. I have to be busy. I have to be busy, but I don't really want to do anything. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So I sit
Well,
there.
it keeps your hands from being idle,
Mm-hmm.
and I like the fact that you have a useful article at the end of it.
Yes,
And same applies for, needlepoint, cross stitch, any of it.
I'm
And
good on sewing, but I've broken sewing machines before because I didn't know. And this is going to sound crazy.
mhm,
Um, But you know how you use a needle threader to thread because it didn't have one of those automatic threaders on the machine. So
okay.
it's a little needle threader thing. Is it one? Who knows? Anyway, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, yeah, the little needle threaders,
And I
little
put it in
things.
through the front,
Hmm.
and I put the thread in and then pulled it. I didn't realize that I was messing up my machine because I was threading it backwards.
Oh no. Okay, yeah. I
And
actually have, my mother had my great grandmother's treadle singer
oh yeah,
reconditioned for me. So I have a non-electric,
with the foot peg.
unkillable singer machine made out of metal. And everything that I sew, I actually have to use my own leg power to sew,
Uh-huh.
and adore the fact that it is completely handmade and that they're unkillable. You know,
Right.
you cannot break one of these things. They do not make them that way anymore. But it is amazing, and to be linked to my female ancestry that way, because she supported herself and her daughter after her husband died of diphtheria, and that was her livelihood, was that machine.
Right. I know my grandmother used to make our clothes when we were little. I didn't
Hmm.
like them, but she made them. She did a good job.
We don't like anything that our parents make when we're that age.
No, because
I remember the great
every
sweaters that my grandmother would knit for us, and I'd be like, oh, they're itchy, they're yucky.
and now you're sitting here making them.
Yeah, basically.
It seemed like I used to like to do flips on these parallel bars on the playground.
Yeah.
But when I wore the pants that my grandma made us, they always
Too
stink.
tight.
And so I felt like SpongeBob. I split my pants every day in school. So, but I miss my grandma. I miss her. She'll be, well, her 101 birthday is in April. So,
But what I find funny, and listening to you talk about it brings it home, how all of those little gestures, all of those little repetitive movements and tasks are what link us.
they really are. And I find myself, I like, well, I don't do the gardening. My grandpa did all the gardening,
Hmm.
but I don't have any yard where I'm at. I know I can do I want to get some of those like trough things. It
Yeah,
looks like a metal trough and
yeah,
maybe
yeah, yeah.
garden in that. So, because I don't have a
Hey,
yard,
anything that you can put earth in can be a garden.
but I love to do anything with yarn, and I love
Mhm.
canning. Do you do canning?
I do some canning, I do some freezing, I do some dehydration, I do fermentation, depending on what the element is to preserve.
Okay.
So we have a very, very large garden. My husband is a master gardener. He's the one who got me into growing food.
Oh, okay.
And to be able to grow what he grows in a zone 2A, that's our hardy zone. It's not very many frost-free days,
Right.
but we've just finished the last of our what we grew. for the year. But it's been amazing. So depending on what he brings me, it'll be transformed differently. But canning is amazing. What do you can?
I can everything.
Okay.
I can chicken. I can vegetables. I can, of course, everybody cans beans. Um, I've learned that you cannot can rice.
Must get kind of mushy.
Well, it dries out.
Really?
Yeah, it's weird. It dries out.
So strange.
But I like to can like my prosperity meals. The New Year's meals.
Yeah.
Cabbage. I can
Mm.
corned beef.
Okay.
I've canned a meatloaf.
Yeah.
I can chili. Just whatever they have at the farmer's market.
That's so awesome.
I can can it.
Mm-hmm.
And I like it because I have teenagers. And
Yeah. Instant food.
Exactly. Instant homemade food.
Yeah, exactly. It's like way a step above Chef Boyardee.
They can stick it in the microwave 2 minutes, home cooked meal.
Yeah, exactly. It's done.
And they can make it themselves. I don't have to make,
Mom!
I can cook one weekend and it lasts all month. So,
yeah.
I mean, we still do takeout. Don't get me wrong.
But what you're talking about is also something that I consider fundamental to magical practice is feeding your people. It starts in the belly.
Yes, and the way you make it, the herbs you put into it, all that.
And it's also about being thrifty, about not wasting what you have, not wasting the bounty that's available.
Exactly. That's what I was just about to say. When the pandemic started, I went out and bought a 50-pound bag of rice and a 50-pound bag of beans.
Yep.
And we still have a lot of that rice and a lot of that beans.
It's not for nothing that is linked with prosperity.
Mm-hmm.
Foods that are linked with prosperity are the staples that keep you alive in the leaner times.
Oh, yeah. And I've gained 20 pounds. We've not won without at all, But I think I've gained 20 pounds since the pandemic started. At least 15 of it.
Well, just the opportunities for movement are more limited, particularly if you're living in a city.
Right.
So, we live where population density 0, we live in the armpit of the province where I live, where nobody wants to go, which is exactly the way we like it. But it also means there's no population density, and most people tend to not be into other people and spend a lot of time outdoors at the hunting cabin or the fishing cabin or in the woods cross-country skiing if you're me. So that's the type of activity that's popular over here. It's a different lifestyle. It's not what a lot of people are into, but they also don't stick mines in the middle of a city where people are going to be. People don't like holes and blasting right next door. So they tend to put them in the armpits of the universe, which is where we live, and appreciate that.
Right. I don't too much do people either, but but I love myself.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I am perfect company for me.
Well, a lot of workers tend to not, and I'm going to generalize, and it's not true for all of them, but when you're sensitive to the way other people are, you need a lot of quiet time around your own 2 ears, because that's a lot of background noise.
Yeah, it is.
It's a lot of stuff coming in. So, yeah, to a certain extent, you can learn to kind of put up blinders. Yeah, exactly. You can kind of put that up, but it also requires work to do that. It requires effort to do that. So having that quiet, that calm is a wonderful thing. Here. As you can see, we've got family in the background.
That's okay. I'm surprised mine aren't in here. Well, she was. Mom, can I have a starburst? I'm like, what?
All right, over here.
I can't hear you. No problems. We all have families in one sense or another. They could be fur babies or whatever.
Yeah. And there's a lot of definitions of family, and all of them are good ones.
especially the chosen families.
Now you bring this upstairs.
Husband, and then you have a child to be animals, and those are the ones that sometimes are closer to you than blood that you didn't choose.
Yeah. But there's also something about blood family that even if you don't choose them, there comes a point where you realize that those habits that you really can't stand of them are probably the ones that you inherited.
Right. Just like when we go back to doing the canning and the crocheting, because
Exactly.
It's awesome though. So what? You're not. You're just doing your day job now.
Yeah. Well, just doing my day job. I think that, once you've started practicing seriously in any way, it never leaves you. You don't necessarily practice for other people, but practice doesn't disappear in a life.
Right.
It stays a part of what you do and a part of what you think, and it's a part of who you are.
It's a way of life, really.
Yeah.
But are you planning to write another book, or?
I don't know. We'll see.
Counting it out, so that's good.
I've learned never to say never, one way or another.
Okay.
I have numerous cookbooks written. I have nobody to publish those. If somebody wants a cookbook, I've got lots of really good food. But when it comes to conjure books or when it comes to root work, I may write another magical book, but a book on root work specifically. And yet another reason that I'd say that I practice magic, but not necessarily root work or hoodoo specifically, is that I'm a visitor to the culture. After writing 2 books, I'm like, do I really even have a right to write this? I appreciate everything I've learned, and I have a very profound respect for the communities that have built it, for the communities that have pioneered it, and to whom it belongs. But I am a visitor.
Right.
A privileged visitor. And I appreciate every moment that I have spent with all of the communities, be they visitors, be they born into it. All of the above have marked me, and I consider myself so grateful. But should I write something else, it's probably going to be a book of daily magic.
You could self-publish on Amazon your cookbook.
Yeah. There will come a time and a day when I'm ready, when I have time to put it together. But for the moment, I blog. I have a very active cooking blog, which I'm sure you've seen via my Facebook feed. And for the moment, I share that way, and it works. Like I said, day job takes a lot out of you, and particularly the industry I work in. It's hour intensive, and my focus is my family.
I don't know much about the field. I know that there was a Colorado School of Mines up in Denver.
Yeah.
I didn't go to that college, so I don't know what they do. I thought they just worked in the mines in the mountains.
They do. There's many different avenues. I actually work at the ore processing plant, so I'm at the place where they grind it down and turn it into something valuable. And my job is maintaining that machinery. So I plan the maintenance on those machines, make sure we have the parts, make sure that, things don't break down and it doesn't stop, because it rolls 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Right.
And it cannot stop rolling. So that's what we do. And it's a whole other world. It is completely different from anything I do in my personal practices. But at the same time, it's a nice counterpoint to it. And part of what I hope that I am conveying to my son is that you don't have to be just one thing in life.
No.
Things don't have to be black or white. It is an amazing amounts of shades of gray, and we are many different people. We are many different vocations, and we are many different lives all at once. And that's okay. You know, we can do that. We can be that. And it doesn't take anything away from any of those paths that we are following and walking.
No, and it's always good to learn the various paths and stuff.
Mhm.
The more you know, the more you grow.
Yeah. But I mean, I won't lie, I definitely bring sweets into work on a semi-regular basis.
Yeah. Well, that's what makes you happy. That's where I think that's where probably your passion is in food.
Yeah. But those sweets are also ways of working.
You can
With,
sweeten them up, but it depends
exactly.
what are you putting in them? Are you putting like your cinnamon so you can make more money at your work and different things like that?
Exactly. It's choosing what you're bringing into work. Sometimes it's like, oh, I think we need to wake things up a little bit. Okay, what can I make with tea or coffee in it?
Right.
Let's get things moving. So depending on what needs to be done and what type of energy you want to bring in, you can choose what you're going to use. And that's, I think, one of the things that I found incredibly rewarding about working with herbs and about the entire practice and way that Conjure is built around very common objects and very common ingredients that are easy to find, easy to source, is that you really can customize pretty much anything based on what needs to be done immediately right now. It's very immediate. The results are very quick, and you can see, you're going to know pretty fast if things are moving or not.
Right.
And it's one of the things in practical magic that I've found so incredibly helpful is that they don't replace doing your homework. They're not going to make your homework happen if you don't do the work.
Right.
But they can make it so much easier to get through the task. So I consider it a little bit like, an oil change or lubricating the joints.
Oh
It
yeah.
gets things flowing. And that's a godsend. And if eventually I do end up writing on magic again, it's going to be about that aspect of it, about the little things that you do on a daily basis.
Your maintenance.
Exactly. That keep things rolling, that keep things going smoothly, that keep your life functioning well. So that it's not like, the expression we'd use here is starting an old skidoo where it kind of like turns square for a while before it starts humming.
Right.
You just start and it rolls, it unblocks. Sometimes not on the time frame that you want, but on the time frame that is best meant for things to be.
Exactly.
And if you let that happen, life just unfolds on its own. If you give it the opportunity to do that.
If you do your part.
Yes.
If you
Agreed. Agreed.
You can't just say, do a working and say, give me this. You still have to do your part. You have to take care of your maintenance part.
Yep.
You can buy a car and it may be a fabulous car, an awesome car, but if you don't change the oil, it's going to blow up.
Yeah, I got you on that.
Same thing at work. Now today is Valentine's Day, and if you were, say, Miss Loretta, what would you cook today? Do you know what I'm talking about, right?
No.
You don't know who Miss Loretta is? Oh, she was on Porterfield's show.
I have to say that I've been very
wild.
Yeah, I've been in a silo.
Okay, so what would be something that you would cook or make today? And like, what would you put in it and stuff?
Well, today is the kind of day where, sweets are always good on Valentine's just because they sweeten people up. So definitely something sweet. I tend to use lavender, like lavender shortbread. It depends on what direction somebody's in. If somebody is cooking for somebody of the same gender, lavender shortbread is where I would be. So, oil, lavender, sugar, you've got butter, something that's going to be very lubricating, something that's going to be very rich. And that would be definitely right up there. And I love lavender shortbread.
Oh, I saw a thing on, I don't know if it was on TikTok or where it was, but like it wouldn't say when you use the lavender, do you like cook it in oil and then strain it out? Is that how?
You can. I actually use powdered lavender, but whenever you're using lavender, you have to use it in very, very, very tiny amounts because it will overpower things a lot. Any flower that you use, people think flowers are sweet.
Mm-hmm.
Their smell is sweet. Their taste is bitter. So if you're using rose petal or if you're using lavender in your cooking, do so very delicately and with a very mild hand. The exception is fresh rose petals, which at this time of year out here, forget it, man, you're not finding them. But in the summertime, one of the things that I love to do, and it cans beautifully for the winter time, and I do like to have it around for Valentines, is we handpick wild strawberries, or we have a local organic farm that also has excellent strawberries. And a compote, which is basically a compote, it's like a jam-like thing, but with a lot less sugar. And I do that with rose petals in it, and usually goji berries, mulberries, but very sweet berries that I like to put in. Vanilla will always go in there as well. And vanilla has a warmth to it that is amazing. And it's beautiful to use. If you're going to be making a meal for somebody on Valentine's, my favorite herb to cook with is saffron.
Oh, yeah.
It's got a richness to it. Something like a paella tonight would be a wonderful thing because, you've got rice, which is a richness, kind of a party. You do saffron with that. You can add, I like a little bit of clove. It's not a traditional paella thing. You don't want much of it. You don't want it to taste very much. But friendship is underlooked in love work. And cloves really help warm up friendships and keep people talking, there's a communication aspect I've found to them. And I found them very successful in conjunction with love work, particularly if communication and friendship is an issue in the relationship. Like just to, more, whether we like it or not, there is a transactional element to love. And clove helps with that. It helps work on that. So that's a nice one that I've found as well in conjunction with the more standard love herbs. And the other one that is amazing for love is dill. I grow huge dill plants. People don't think of dill that way. But, in Ayurvedic medicine, dill is actually used for reproductive and sexuality issues.
Oh, wow.
As a medicine. It not on its own, it's used in conjunction with lots of other stuff, but it does actually have that function from an herbal perspective. So, it's not all that much of a stretch people don't think dill because they think sweet love, but, cooking with dill is amazing for the whole family. Cooking with coriander seed is amazing for the whole family and specifically for lovers. So people don't think of, coriander seed and dill as their go-to love herbs, but they're really, really effective that way. And they make stuff taste really good. Like put a whole bunch of dill in your next broccoli soup, your cream of broccoli soup. Hello, right on. It tastes great. It looks great. And hey, it's really healthy for you too. So for a lot of reasons, those underlooked herbs or vegetables can be a lot of fun. And from, a food perspective, you go with something like figs. Just the visual, if you cut open a fig, come on.
Yeah, we had a fig tree in the yard when I was growing up. My
They're
grandma
amazing.
made preserves all the time.
Well, exactly. And, you've got very concentrated sweetness there. You've got tons of seed. They're amazing for love work. If you have access to fresh figs, even better. But there is a fig and strawberry tart that I love to make that's beautiful this time of year, or as a dessert. For everybody thinks chocolate. For some people, chocolate is great. In a lot of cases, it's too much stimulation.
Yeah, I don't.
How much do you want to stimulate the relationship? If you're in the initial kind of, maybe, but if you've been married for 20 years, you don't necessarily want that. This is not the vibe you're going for. At that point, your tart, way better.
Right.
This is heartwarming. You use lots of almonds in the crust, and you've got something just magical, something wonderful. Marzipan, almond-based desserts are also great for love work. So, a lot of these foods that people don't go to right away, they'll go in favor. And I used to do it too. When I first started working, I'd want to go with the big gun herbs, or what I considered to be the big gun herbs. And this was true as an herbalist as well. You want the most powerful medicine-like herb. Now, my motto is more, since I had a child, I looked at the herbs that I had, and I'm like, oh my God, half of these could kill him if he had them. And I completely cleaned a whole bunch of it out. Ditto with the essential oils, and went, no.
Right.
The point for me now is, how can I keep everybody healthy, wealthy, and wise with as little intervention as possible? How do you let nature do its course and just, it's like a car. You don't want to swerve it. You want to keep it aligned. That's it. The tiniest little movement. So a little bit over the long term, done regularly, is going to be more effective than a one-shot wonder.
Unless that's what you're wanting.
Yeah, agreed. Sometimes that is what you want. But I'd rather use much milder herbs, be it in magic or be it in life. And magic and life are actually pretty much the same. But do that consistently over time. Than do, a really massive, something very demanding that's really going to take a lot of energy that I don't have. We all have very busy lives. We all have hectic schedules. Time is at a premium. So if you can build your work into your daily life so that you don't even think about it anymore, and that it's a part of what you do, it's a part of how you breathe, it's a part of how you act, you're saving time, you're saving energy, and you're increasing your effectiveness over the long haul.
Because it's becoming ingrained in who you are.
Exactly.
And
it's just a part of practice. It's a part of what you do. The same way when we plant the seeds, our son is the one who plants them in the ground. And every time he plants a seed, I love you. I love you. I love you. And if I have yet to meet an intention more powerful than a child who plants a seed and tells it that it loves it.
That's so sweet.
It is sweet. And then he gets bored after the 10th one and says, Mom, I'm going to do something else. This is boring.
I'm done now.
Yeah, exactly. But those 10 plants are really special ones.
Those are the ones that probably grow and flourish the most.
Yeah. So, all of that it creates memories, and it becomes a part of who we are. It becomes a part of what we do. And if there's anything I'm grateful for, it is a tradition that I have been able to learn that has made all parts of life magical, all parts of life special, and something to be thankful and grateful for.
That's amazing. We're coming up on our hour. Is there anything? I put your crunchy cooking up,
Yay!
and I also listed the link for your on Amazon. It's kind of a weird looking link, but it works. It'll get you there. For people to buy your books. But is there anything that you would like to leave us with? What would you leave us with?
Whatever it is that you really feel from the bottom of your heart that you want to do, make time for it. Be realistic. I mean, don't necessarily make it your day job. We all have to pay our bills.
Mm-hmm.
But make time for who you are and to discover who that is. Make time for magic, however you define it. You know, my husband defines the practices that I do as, for weird woo-woo shit.
Right.
For him, spirit's found in the garden.
Mm-hmm.
He communes with the plants, but that's no different from what I do in the kitchen. That's no different from what I do when I'm knitting. And everybody has that link to something that makes their souls sing, something that sparks their creativity. And given the time and the opportunity, if you take time in the silence, that will shine. That will become evident. So don't be afraid to experiment and try a bunch of different things until you find the variety, type, and expression of practice that's meaningful for you. Until you find the tradition that speaks to you and allows you to grow best. There's no one right way to do anything. There's a lot of different right ways to do things.
Right.
And they won't be the same for me, for you, or for anybody who's listening today.
We're all individual. We have to find what brings us joy and if I was hearing you right, find what brings us joy and make time for that.
Yeah.
Make time for ourselves to enjoy what we enjoy.
Yeah. Yeah. Because that space, that once you open that well, once you let the water up from that, it's like when you start getting water out of a rock and all of a sudden it opens a floodgate. It completely changes the course of what you do. It changes the course of where you're going to end up. And even if it doesn't physically do that, it changes your perspective, which has changed the course of where you're going to end up.
Right. So, but it helps you grow too. I feel like it does. And it's not selfish. I used to think it was selfish if I took time for me, but I have come to learn it's not.
No, it isn't.
It's not. It's actually better because it makes me happy, which means I'll be nicer to my kids and I'm not going to yell at them.
The better off you're doing, the better off you are with everybody around you.
Oh, exactly.
And the more you're able to truly give, because you're not giving out of a sense of duty anymore. You're giving from the heart. You're giving out of a sense of joy because you can.
Exactly. I appreciate you coming on here today.
Thank you.
Valentine's Day. Now you got to go be with your family and love on them and make your cookies.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me today. It's been wonderful chatting with you.
Yes, you'll have to come back again sometime. All right.
I'm open to the opportunity.
Awesome. Okay.
Have a great one.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.